Um, Actually, it was about the Honorable Kavekotora. Yes. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I will try to be very brief and to also be very constructive.
Yes.
I try my level best. I've been very constructive all along, and I'm really surprised that the colleague on the other side, when you say hello, they hear something totally different. But anyway,
When you say hello, they hear corruption.
Honorable Speaker, I must agree that there are certain areas where we as lawmakers are not failing. And there are also certain areas where the government is also not failing. I think maybe it's an issue of we created that animosity between us to the point that when I'm saying, hello, Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Prime Minister hears something totally different from what I'm saying. We have good laws in this country, but we have a problem with the implementation of those laws. Look at that. Look at that.
No. Allow the Honorable Member to...
We fail, and especially the executive failed to hold people to account. We fail. I have, Honorable Speaker, and it's not something that I picked up from somewhere, it's on the table. I have audited financial statements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of them are coming from local authorities. Hello Napidi, Oshikoto Regional Council, Municipality of Cape Mazuk, Municipality of yeah, Opu is also controlled by you. Municipality of Walfish Bay,
Everything they control is...
Educational Development Fund, Town Council of Gurenkuru, Regional Council of Mosati, Regional Council of Kunene. All of them are having an adverse opinion. Surely you and I, the executive and the legislature, the proper legislature, not the executive, must be concerned. And this is exactly what Honorable Smith is putting to the table, to raise the concern of things that are not going well. Now, Honorable Speaker, I need to categorize, because I've been with public account for 5 years, so at least I've learned 1 or 2 things there. One need to categorize and identify where the problems really are. And I think the executive, including the Minister of Agriculture, must listen. If you take and you start categorizing the various OMAs, when we first started, the ministries also, maybe 50% of them had not adverse opinion, in other words, not to the extreme, but did get qualified opinion. And that is a fact. There were improvements in some ministries where some of them even went to unqualified opinion, which is very good, and we can clap hands for that. But within the ministries themselves, there is another problem where the ministers have to take a critical look at. And these are the funds that they were created within the ministries.
Those accounts.
Those funds, those accounts, first of all, they have no substantive personnel. It's the ED here pulled from his position There's another person pulled from there doing temporary work for the fund. And most of the funds, is one of them here also, are getting negative opinions from the auditors. Some of them are also even moving out of their reasons for establishment. Established to do activity A, they do activity B. That's one. On the front of the state-owned enterprises, some of them are doing good, but some of them are not even being reported to this house because the preparation of the financial statements or the auditing of those financial statements are being done by somebody else, and it's very seldom that some of them are actually coming for scrutiny to this August House. The core problem, as demonstrated by the 7, Honorable Speaker, is the local authorities, the regional council, and the village council. I can put my head on the block to say almost 80% are getting either an adverse opinion or a disclaimer. Auditors simply saying we cannot express an opinion on this financial position of this company because it's a mess. The question is why? And I'm sharing this with you, honorable ministers, especially the custodian ministers, to take note. I brought a motion here for us to talk about decentralization. Some of the ministers were saying that we are a unitary state. Therefore, we cannot give power to the local governments. That's a statement that was made by a minister on that side. But decentralization is a constitutional provision. There's a law in Namibia that talks about decentralization. The question is that why did we stop halfway? And secondly, what are the implications of us stopping halfway? I went through a fact-finding mission in Namibia. We were looking at the impact of the non-payment of invoices through PAC. It came very clear that the people out there prefer to deal with a decentralized structure than to deal with central government. There's too much bureaucracy in central government. The response time is non-existent or is low. Let me not say non-existent. And we brought this report to this August House. Nothing was done. Honorable Kawana spoke about a very important issue. And I believe that because of the lack of capacitating local authorities, regional councils, and village councils, I'm not really surprised that 90% or 80% of them are getting adverse opinion. Honorable Kawana talked about internal audit, which is a very important input when it comes to internal control mechanism. If you don't have internal control mechanism, you'll find it very difficult for the external auditors to come and find your books in order. To me, it's really constructive. I'm simply saying, colleagues, establish structures within the local authorities to take care of the financial positions of these local authorities. And Honorable Kawana is talking about, abusing money, moving money from one account to the other. The auditors are not blind. The auditors, the process that they follow a process of saying, we detect that a certain amount was used for a purpose not intended for. And they ask for explanations. That is why we have in accounting what they say a management letter. A management letter is an engagement between the accountant or the auditor and the accounting officer to say, okay, these are the weaknesses of your system, and because of this, please do A, B, C, and D. And both agree. And then later on, once they have time, they come and they say, how far are you in addressing those matters that we brought up in the management letter? Local authorities, in the current form, I don't think that it's fair even to blame them, because they're not capacitated. They don't have the capacity to keep good records. And the auditors, on the other hand, are also not fools to simply just give an adverse opinion on something that can be explained. Because they ask for explanation. And when they are satisfied with that particular explanation, they don't use that as a reason to give you a negative opinion. I disagree with that. That's not what is actually happening. So, my point here, Honorable Speaker, before I sit down, is simply to say, let us address the weaknesses in the system. This is what this motion is calling for. There are certain weaknesses in the system, and those weaknesses need to be addressed. I will also agree with Honorable Kawana to say, if we from this side are simply just pulling anything and try to hold on to that something, even though it is not material enough to justify a criticism, that is wrong. But again, coming back to what Honorable Menani is saying, maybe also we need to look at the culture. If the Honorable Prime Minister always disagree with me when I say 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, then obviously I will also disagree with her when she say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. It's simple, it's human nature. It's what you get in, what you give is what you get. If you punch me, I'll punch you back. Simple as that. So, Honorable Speaker, I just want to stop here to say there are critical messages in this motion that the executive will have to take note of and act on them, and not just rely on the law and say the law is there. So what? If the law is not being implemented, the law will be there for the coming 100 years and nothing will be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's just an observation, something that came out of the contribution from the Honorable Dr. Kawana, Honorable Venani, Honorable Kavekotora. There's something about the fact that I think we do not interact sufficiently. We hardly. Even during tea time, because sometimes really we all come here, but I want to encourage, like in the old days, for some reason I used to think those of us who came here much earlier, there used to be a great deal of interaction on the part of the member, and I really want to encourage that, because it's far greater to basically socially interact with each other. And that spirit